y'all, it's me, Amanda, the Lazy Stitcher. I decided to go with a really eccentric makeup look today. I was going for like Forest Fairy or something. But the lighting is terrible and is washing me out, so you can't really see it. But it is what it is, right? So, haven't done an update in a while. I have one video that is fully recorded and I just have to upload it. And I have another one that is filmed, but I still need to edit it and upload it. But anyway, what you're getting today is we're going to talk about all the books I read in June and July. I decided to combine them because my reading has been pretty abysmal for the summer. It went way down. I didn't read many books at all in July, and June was down lower than usual, and so far August is also pretty slumpy. Hopefully it'll pick up again in the fall. I think it's just kind of hard to do that much reading with my wonderful, beautiful children around. So, it is what it is, right? Now, let's go ahead and get started on what I read. So, we're going to start with Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. This is the special Owl Crate edition. Isn't that pretty? And it has really pretty, the inside artwork that they have is so gorgeous. I'll just show you real quick but look at that. I love it. Anyway, this of course is the second in the duology. In a duology, the first one is Strange the Dreamer. And the basic concept is Laszlo Strange has this connection, this desire to see this mystical city called Weep. That's not its real name, but it's the name, the actual name of the city was eaten up and disappeared. So this is all that anybody can remember that it's called. Basically, it's a very slow-moving fantasy story. Now, unfortunately, I can't really tell you what's going on in this one because it spoils the first book. But this is the conclusion, and what I can tell you is it's excellent. I gave it 4.5 stars. Basically, Laini Taylor does a really good job. She's got a lot of description, and one of the things I think she does really, really well is she has this ability to really add a lot of depth to her villains. Her villains are not just one-dimensional. They aren't just one thing. They are really multi-dimensional, and they have so much depth to them. And she does an amazing job. And I mean, all of her characters are fantastic, and it's a really lovely story. I would highly recommend this duology. It's really good, especially if you've read any other Laini Taylor, Daughter of Smoke and Bone. And I just remembered my husband listened to this and he hadn't told me he had. And then I found out that he did, and we still haven't talked about it. So I'm going to have to talk to him so we can discuss it. But yeah, I love Laini Taylor's writing. Now, one thing to note about her, she's very descriptive. So one simple scene can take a very long time. I don't mind. I love it. And I actually listened to it as an audiobook, but I went ahead and I bought the special editions because I was 99% sure I was going to enjoy them, and I did. And I wanted them up on my shelves looking beautiful. So, first recommendation. The next book I read was Highway to Hellbore by Nancy Warren. This is a cozy fantasy series of a lady who runs a flower store in England, but she's American and her mom's Scottish. Whatever, we're going with it. And this is the third one, I believe. It was fine. All of these books are pretty basic. The mysteries are not particularly thrilling or amazing. But I like most of the characters. I don't really like Norman the Parrot. He's a little much. But everyone else is fine. and there's plenty to enjoy. It's charming, and they're quick reads. I gave it, I think, 3 stars. Yeah, I gave it 3 stars. That's what I've given most of these books. Again, they're not amazing, but they're, if you're in the mood for just a cozy fantasy, you can't go wrong. The next book I read was A Rover Story by Jasmine Warga. This one's actually a middle grade fiction book. I went ahead and I purchased a few leftover Owl Crate Junior crates. And I got like 4 of them. They were going for a really good deal. The shipping is awful, but like they were inexpensive, so I got a few of them. And I actually read this book to my kids. So this book is about a Mars rover. It's about a Mars rover named Resilience, and he's going to go to Mars, and if he makes a good enough discovery, he might actually get to come home, too. It's really cute. And you get to learn about how the rovers are made. You get to learn about a lot of the sciences behind them. It's got some emotional parts, too. Rez is very, like, he has a personality. He's definitely, artificially intelligent, but, like, in a charming way, he's not scary. And yeah, it was perfect timing because we had just read an actual nonfiction book about the Mars rovers, Spirit and Opportunity. So it was perfect timing to go ahead and read this one. Definitely recommend it if you have a middle grade aged kid. I rated it 4 stars. Go ahead and check it out. The next book I read, I got from the library, our very small local library, and it was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Now, this was one of my 12 and 12 reading challenge books. This one was suggested by my friend Kelly, and the basic concept of this book is there's a young lady who has, like, absolutely the worst day ever. She has had a lot of amazing opportunities in her life that just didn't pan out, and she is feeling very low, very, very down, so she decides to take her own life. And she wakes up in what's called the Midnight Library, like a place between life and death, where she can go through her life and she can relive and try different paths of, like, what if she had done something differently. And she does. I'm not going to go too far into it, but it's one of those emotionally gripping books that personally it really resonated with me. I loved it. I thought it was up my alley. I've talked about how I like those female characters who really need therapy. It's like a thing for me now. And this is a really good book. I found it very emotionally gripping. I know there's people who, it's kind of a hit or miss book for people. I know people who really didn't like it, but I personally did. I ended up giving it 5 stars. I would definitely recommend it if you're someone who likes those kind of emotionally gripping books. Then I read The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. Obviously a book of the month pick. Now, this one, the concept is I have a hard time explaining the concept of this book. Is we've got a gal Anna, and she is a bit of a mess. And at one point in the past, during college, I believe, she got conveniently married to a guy. I think his name's Justin. We're going to go with Justin. Liam. His name's Liam. Nope. Yeah, I got that one wrong. Anyway, she marries a guy named Liam, and they do it purely so that they can share an apartment. Well, it turns out Liam's family is actually loaded, and they didn't actually get divorced, which is what Anna thought happened. And his family wants to meet her, and there's this big contingency and stuff that if things work out, he would inherit a whole boatload of money. So he's going to pay her like 50 grand or something to basically go to a private wedding on an island. It's like a private island wedding. and be his wife. It's convoluted, but just trust me. It's entertaining, it's funny, the steamy bits were really good, I liked the characters, I enjoyed this book. I thought that the characters actually had some emotional depth to them, like they have problems, but they actually deal with them pretty well for the most part. I just really enjoyed it. This was a great basic romance if you're in a romance mood and you want like a nice summer romance. Definitely check this out. I gave it 4.5 stars. Then next I read Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This is actually a young adult fiction, and this one is basically like a gothic murder mystery romance kind of a book. Now, what's going on here is we've got this gal, Signa. I am not a stickler for names apparently, right? So anyway, we've got Signa. Death has followed her whole life. Like it seems like her parents died and she has flitted from guardian to guardian and people just keep dropping like flies around her. And yet she herself is incapable of dying. And over time, she's come to know the actual character of Death. And they have a bit of an animosity between them because, well, on her end, because she's just like, dude, could you just stop killing people so like I can live my life? Because this is getting frustrating. Anyway, she finally ends up in another household where it appears that the lady of the household was murdered from belladonna poisoning. And she wants to figure out, like, who did it because the daughter is also sick and, like, who is poisoning her? What's going on? And meanwhile, there's also a very strange romance with Death himself. Because why not? So this book, I thought it would be right up my alley, but I didn't love it nearly as much as I thought. I think there was just a lot of things that didn't work. Like, I feel like this is something that should have been like 100% my thing. Like a romance with death, it just sounds awesome. But there's a bit of a slight triangle. I'm not going to say how it ends, but it kind of threw me off in terms of the feelings. It all works out, and then the murder mystery itself, I felt like this book was just a little bit more slow paced than I personally would have preferred. It's not bad or anything. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would. I do already have the sequel, Foxglove, which I'm going to read in the fall, or at least closer to spooky season. Really, I shouldn't have read this in the summer. I thought it would be like a summery spooker, but it's not. It's definitely fall vibes, so I just wasn't batting very well for my summer picks, okay? But yeah, as a whole, not a bad book. I know it's very popular. I gave it 3.5 stars, and I'm still looking forward to reading Foxglove. Next, I read on my Kindle The Princess Bride by William Goldman. Now, this book, before I get into it, it needs a bit of a caveat, okay? Okay, sorry. So it's basically, he's pretending that he has a text from this guy named S. Morgenstern. And he is doing an abridged, modernized version of the text, okay? That's what you need to know about this book. Not to spoil it, but I feel like it's kind of helpful. The thing about this book, too, is there's a lot of blah that I personally did not need. I skipped a lot of it, okay? A lot of the beginning. I'm just giving a heads up because I got the 25th anniversary edition, so in the beginning, it's just talking about the movie and the book, mostly the movie, and it's just a bunch of like anecdotes about it, which I'm just like, I love that movie, I'm not personally interested in this, okay? Not trying to be a jerk, just wasn't what I was going for. So I skipped that, and then I went into the actual text, but it's like William Goldman talking about the fake backstory of the book, which again, I just personally did not need and did not care about. So I skipped that too. The actual story is great. It's very, the book and the movie, very, very similar. And it's got a similar feeling to it. I mean, all the characters are the same characters. A lot of the lines are the same. There's an occasional one spoken by a different character than there was in the movie, but most of it is like the same, okay? If anything, the book adds some really great backstory. Like, you get to learn some of the backstory of some of the other characters. Like, I loved learning the backstory of Fezzik and also of Inigo. So I recommend reading it for that reason alone. Also, at the end, there's a second, like, sequel story called Buttercup's Baby. I didn't really need to read that either. It just didn't do anything for me. I don't mean to be a jerk. I just didn't care. So, I know somebody out there is getting real mad at me right now. Like, why didn't you actually read all that stuff? There's great stuff in there. It's a good comedy, blah, blah, blah. It just wasn't my thing, okay? I just wanted the actual story. So, when you get to the actual story, it's charming, it's funny, it's wonderful. And you get the funny little, like, asides he makes. I really enjoyed it. I gave it, how did I rate that? So, The Princess Bride is a basic fairy tale, very much told as a fairy tale, kind of a story, of a commoner woman named Buttercup who has a farm boy who works for her family. And she and the farm boy fall in love, but then disaster strikes for them, and she ends up he gets caught by the dread pirate Roberts, and he's gonna be, and that he never takes prisoners, so her man is gone. And then she ends up engaged to the Prince of the Kingdom, and there's a story about that is not in the movie. So, and it's an entertaining and funny story. So, there you go. Okay, I gave it 4.25 stars. 4.25 stars. Now this one was recommended by my friend Claudia. Oh, I have a bit of a gap, and then we'll explain. But yeah, Claudia recommended this, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Claudia. Next, I was listening to American Gods by Neil Gaiman. Now, there have been recent allegations about Neil Gaiman. My husband had already purchased this audiobook. I had already listened to like 3/4 of it. So, yeah, I was going to just go ahead and finish it, even though I'd heard these allegations. I'm going to review it without anything about him as an author, okay? We're good, or him as a person. We're going to kind of set him aside and just talk about the book, okay? The actual book was entertaining. I had no idea what was going on for most of it. So, basic concept for this one. I didn't even tell you the basic concept of The Princess Bride. I kind of just assumed everybody knew. Editing, Amanda. You got some work to do. American Gods is about a guy named Shadow who is in prison, and right as the guy is leaving prison, disaster strikes for him. Loses his job opportunity as well as his wife. I'm not going to go into too many details because I think it's kind of fun to go in this blind, because I went into it blind. And basically we've got this kind of a war happening between the old gods and the new gods. And they kind of have some powers a little bit, and the whole thing's kind of weird. It's a lot of weirdness. Like, but it was entertaining. Okay, it was entertaining, and I liked a lot of the backstories that we learn in this book. I thought the general concept was interesting, and I did actually like the conclusion to it. My husband recommended it. He's like, it all comes together. And yeah, it does. I was entertained. I enjoyed it. I do have to say I like Neil Gaiman's style of writing, regardless of how he is as a person. So I gave that one 4 stars. Listen to it as an audiobook. Another thing I should note, the audiobook has a full cast narration, which is fantastic. I don't know if I'd recommend this book to other people right now unless you already have it or you can get it from the library or something like that. I personally, at this moment, don't believe in supporting Neil Gaiman with any money unless he ends up being innocent, which I do believe innocent until proven guilty, but I also believe in believing victims. So at the moment, any support he has from me is very much on hold and non-existent unless he somehow proves these allegations to be false. Okay, and the last book is Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This is another book for my 12 and 12 challenge. Funny enough, this was recommended by Claudia's husband, Jacob. Now, the reason it's funny is because Trust of the Emerald Sea is actually a vague retelling of The Princess Bride. So I wanted to read these back to back, and I did. I finished American Gods in between because it was an audiobook. When I say it's a retelling, I want to clarify it is not like a retelling. It's based off of. The vibes are there. But like in terms of like the actual plot and what's going on and even the characters, it is quite different. And I think it's really important to note that so someone doesn't go in and expect like a plot by plot, piece by piece, character by character retelling, because that's not what this is, okay? But the general vibes, the vibes are there. Like you can tell that The Princess Bride was used as an inspiration, a seed that grew into this book. So we have our main character, Tress, who is a common lady, a commoner in a world where people live on these islands and there are seas that are filled with these spores. And when the spores touch water, and by water, that does include like your saliva, your tears, etc., they all do various things. In her area where she lives, the Emerald Sea, they turn into vines and they grow big and strong. And yeah, as you can imagine, a vine growing in your eyeball or, in your mouth or body, not healthy for you, not good for you. So people are very afraid of these spores. And the different seas, there's different colored seas, the spores do different things. It's scary, okay? It's scary to live and trust this world. So that is the basic concept of this book. Oh, so that's the magic concept. Now what ends up actually driving the action is she falls in love with the Duke's son on her world, but he is sent off to get married. And in the process of his travels, he is captured by a woman called the Sorceress. And Tress wants to save him, and so she goes and she ventures off in an attempt to save him. This book is so lovely, so pleasant, and I really, really enjoyed it. I love Tress as a character. She's clever and very, very kind-hearted. It's really nice to read such a kind-hearted character. I loved her. And her romance with Charlie, is just shown in the beginning, and it is so sweet. So, so very sweet. And the characters that she meets along the way are all fantastic. I loved them. Super entertained by the whole thing. This also takes place in Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere. So there are references to other Cosmere worlds and stuff. I've read Mistborn, and I've read his, Renegades trilogy. I don't know if that's in the Cosmere, though, to be honest. But anyway, I've read Mistborn. I got the Mistborn references. I've only read First Era. Anyway, I do recommend it, though. One of the great things is this book has lots of stuff going on. It took me a long time to read it. It wasn't the book's fault. my reading slump is not due to the books I'm reading. It's really just like how stuff is right now, right? Anyway, this book, there's lots that happens, and it's not that there's no stakes. There's plenty of stakes, and there's lots of stuff going on, and there's tension. Yet at the same time, I like that the vibe of this book is that it's never like harrowing. It's not like one of those like Game of Thrones, oh god, anyone could die at any moment. You feel generally not stressed, is how I felt about this book. Like, there's stuff going on, there's danger, but I didn't feel stressed, and I really enjoyed it. So I gave this 5 stars, loved it, highly recommend it. And that's what I read for all of June and July. So far in August, I've only read like a couple of books. It's pretty bad, you guys. I think I've only actually read one book. And it's like August 9th. That's pretty bad. It is what it is. I bet the rest of the year, once we hit September and my kids are going to school, it's going to be like lots of reading. So, I know. I did it. Okay, so if you actually made it this far, could you give me a purple heart for my purple cheeks or a green heart for the really green eyes? Like I said, I was going for a like forest fairy look for finishing off the summer. I probably won't be making any more videos this summer, but considering I'm behind on posting anyway, you're not going to notice. You'll see me again in September when I talk about my August books, which it'll probably be a very short video. I highly doubt I'm going to read a whole lot more than I have, sadly, this August. But then it's going to get picked up, right? Anyway, I hope you're all doing well, and see y'all next time. Bye.